here's another question I have for Duane is, that was one of the big things in the corporation was, it says, do everything that you have agreed to do. I'd like you to comment on that statement. When we agree with something or tell somebody we're going to do something, how do you feel about following through with our agreements? Now, I know that the reason why we're at is because of agreement. So, is that like a tap line when you agree to do everything that you've agreed to do, or is that a trap, or is that something we should really adhere to? What? Yeah, I'd like to hear what you think about that, Duane.
So we have the defendant, and the defendant has a question. And so we're going to bring on the witness, and that will be you, Sandy. So how do you see this, Sandy? You were in the corporation 50 years. You've been with Bob and going through all this experience. So he has a question, and you're the witness. So how do you see this?
What was your, repeat it? I was kind of,
Sandy was,
sometimes I don't listen to
yeah, when I'm involved, she never listens. So.
No, I do listen, but repeat what you said. Repeat it. Can you repeat it?
Well, Duane asked you a question.
No, repeat it.
My question was, what is reality how should we deal with the statement, do everything that you've agreed to do? I mean, are we bound by our agreements if we don't? If we do not follow up on everything we've agreed to do, are we in violation of some cosmic law? I mean,
I think as long as you're in the corporation or you're in the worlds of creation, the worlds of duality, yeah, there is a cause and effect. And once you get to the real side, I think that you start making your own path, your own blueprint for the real side. And then I think that's negated. I think the cause and effect, I mean, there are certain causes and effects. If you don't breathe air, you're going to die. There's certain laws we have, on the physical plane. But I think that what did you agree to do? I think some of that can be negated.
Well, that's part of it. So the question, and Duane, you've on many occasions said that everybody is stuck in creation because of their agreements. And a lot of the agreements that people make, they're not even aware that they made an agreement. So my question is,
well, you had to make an agreement because you're here. You wouldn't have been born.
You didn't have to make an agreement.
How did you get here?
But a lot of our agreements,
I mean, you have a physical body.
A lot of our agreements, we are not even aware that we're making an agreement.
That's true.
But the question is, if you consciously make an agreement, if you do not follow through with your agreement, are you karmically bound? Or can you, as normally when you make an agreement, are we making agreements with ourselves, or are we making agreements with somebody else? I guess that would be another question. Who are we making an agreement with? And then if you want to break the agreement, like, for example, you want to no longer have Jesus die for your sins. If you want to break your agreements, how do you, I mean, I can't go talk to Jesus and say, I'm breaking my agreements with you. How do you break agreements without karmic effects? So that's basically my question.
That's a very simplified version. Thank you, Bob. Observing this and listening to this, you guys are good. In other words, you should make some videos here, and Kelsey will help you. So I'm imagining, I'm just having fun here. I'm imagining I'm a judge. I'm the judge in the courtroom. and I'm listening to the defendant who's obviously confused and the witness that doesn't listen. And so the question from the original question, because we have a stethographer here taking all this down, has really transformed into something that's whatever. So again, if you two can figure this out, good luck. So the judge is going into his chambers and it's nap time. So in other words, I'm just kidding, kids. So the thing is that the question is about agreements. All right. So, again, that's up to you. Isn't it? You decide.
Yeah.
Well, we decide.
So if you had this agreement with Jesus, and many people do, it's like, in other words, the idea is that, well, Jesus will save me. That's an agreement. Okay, so you've agreed. You didn't sign a contract with Jesus, but basically the idea is you've accepted that, so that's an agreement. And so the only person that's going to null and void it is you, right? So again, this is where it becomes a little tricky. And yes, it's just like the corporation. Now that you brought this up, see, these people have been rehearsed, they've been conditioned, especially with initiations. These are spiritual values that seem to be precious, the initiations. And so, yes, we all considered them, okay? But I saw more than that. Yes, I went through them, but at the same time, I saw more than that. But there are so many people that, they see what's going on, but they're afraid. And they also feel guilty that, oh my gosh, if I don't support, what I've always supported, I'll feel bad because, again, it's almost like they need me. So you go through all this drama, but really the bottom line is that, it's kind of like leaving home. You had an agreement there with your parents to be there and everybody loved everybody, right? And, usually the mothers are crying because the child is going off to college or something or whatever, or getting married. The parents like to cry at marriages. Oh, our daughter's going to be gone or whatever the idea is. And, all these things that we add ideas to. And so again, but it's all choice. And this is what's so cool about the isness. We go through all this personal confusion, and I understand we all go through it. It takes time because we have the personal self. We got to deal with it every day. Every day we're with the personal self. And it's like having 10 dogs. It's like you're with them every day, night and day. And if someone comes around, they're barking and whining and whatever. So it's all the time. And this personal self is the same way. We've created it to be a particular. So getting through that personal self and all these things. So for me, I see that too. I've made agreements too, just like my marriage. And yet at the same time, I had a girlfriend, but of course Rebisar brought her in, so it's his fault. So so I just blame it on them. It's just a lot easier. It's your fault, Paul. You did it.
Yeah.
I had an experience 3 or 4 nights ago. I was telling Val, it was, I was there, it was a view, and I saw Harry standing in the distance about 15 feet away, and he had this little statue about half his size. It's kind of funny. It was kind of stretched out feet or whatever, and it was really a kind of a white, and it was kind of a dirty white statue. And it wasn't one of those big statues like you see of Lenin or one of the presidents that's all carved out of rock or something that, Michelangelo did or something like that. No, this was out of plaster Paris. And all of a sudden, it was broken. And he accused me. He said, "You did this. You broke my statue." And I said, "No, I didn't." I said, "He did." And to the left of me came out this character, which I watch in The Blacklist, which is Raymond Reddington. He's always doing these things. And it was Paul. Paul had did it. And my dad's name was Raymond. And so again, it's like Rebisar and Paul are the parents. But so the thing is that, see, you can blame all this stuff on the boys. But what's so cool about the isness is that all your agreements and whatever, you just give it up. is that it's pure. Okay, it's a pureness. It's real and it's pure. And then at a certain point, you recognize that creation is not the absolute that you thought it was. It's just something that you're going through. There's a difference. And so as you look at the invented systems, as I call them, from politics, religion, spiritual, scientific, whatever, all these things, you decide your reality. And if these are your reality, if they come first, fine. But I see the as. It's pure, like the sun shining. And I'll face it all. This is the thing. I'm not going to feel this way or that way, which I have with the little self. I've gone through so much stuff. But realistically, when it comes to it, I'll face it all. I'll face all the agreements I made and whatever. I'll face it all. I'll deal with it. And so this is where we step up. But what's so cool about the isness is that none of it's, you might say, true. It just is what it is. It's creation. It's not about, true or false. He lied or she lied or whatever. There's no such thing. These are all experiences. And, that show, The Blacklist, is very good because Reddington in that, the character, whatever comes up, he figures it out. He just goes right around and he figures something out. Of course, he's got a bunch of hitmen or whatever. That helps too. But again, it's like the boys, they take care of the situation. So, all these things that we entangle ourselves with, all these ideas, yes, you utilize the ideas in creation, but it's how you make them your reality. And if you set them forth first, and this is what the rule lovers like to do, they like to proclaim the rules, and what you can't do is the basic thing. Oh, you can't do this and you can't do that and whatever, because it's about control. All of that is about control. And you can take the risk, but a lot of people are afraid to do something wonderful as opposed to just agreeing and being okay and going along, etc. You always have the choice. It's always your choice. So those agreements, the way I see it is that, yes, you've agreed to certain things, okay? Yes, you've agreed to bring home the pizza, but all of a sudden, you decide, what, I'm not going to bring home pizza tonight. I'm going to bring home a big green salad instead because it's a lot better for us. You see, you can do better, can't you?
Yeah, this reminds me of an experience quite a few months ago that I had before I found the new you and you. I was doing a spiritual, in the corporation they call it spiritual exercise, and so I was doing it, and all of a sudden I'm in a room and I'm talking with Rebisar about music, how it affects the body and how each has a certain vibration and color and all kinds of stuff about in-depth music observation. Well, so I say to him, well, I said, to dig into this further, I wouldn't mind coming back. So I go off, he goes off into this room on the right, and there is this huge machine. I think it's gold in color or brass in color, I'll say. And it had a big crank handle. So he starts cranking the handle, and out comes a piece of paper that's kind of manila colored, and he hands it to me, and on the sheet of paper is a birth certificate, and there are two little blue feet on it. And I'm thinking, what the heck have I agreed to? I don't know if I really want to come back. I guess I wouldn't have to. I could, do it or do something else somewhere else with music. But it just reminded me of that experience I had. I mean, no sooner had I said it to him, and he's, running a birth certificate off for me. So, Duane, what do you think?
Did I say something about that?
What do you think? What do you think you should do?
Or what it all represents, or is it self-explanatory, or?
The
Yeah.
chicken wanted to say something. Go
Oh.
ahead.
Oh, well,
Yes,
let's listen to the chicken.
The mother in today's world, they don't realize that at the birth, especially in the corporations, I'm talking about the hospitals and all the licensed people, they have to sign the child over to the state at birth. And they do that through the signature on some form of a birth document. And that document is then transposed, not the original, but all of the verbiage and the copies of the signatures and stuff gets transposed on a piece of banknote paper. There's an agreement right there up front. The mother agreed to turn the child over. And that's where the state, they get this doctrine called parens patriae, which is the mother of all the people. And that's what our system has evolved into. That's just one of the many agreements that people get themselves into because they don't take the time to learn what's really underneath it all. And your agreements include things like your driver's license, your taxing system, building codes, all of that stuff. It's all about agreement. It does not apply to our system on the private side, but that's a bigger picture to all.
Thank you. Duane, you were going to say something?
So backing up a little bit, the idea was that you made the statement or whatever that if it takes another life or something along those lines. Did you say that?
Well, I was saying, yeah, to get more in depth with the music and everything, I wouldn't mind coming back to explore it further. And no sooner had it come out of my mouth than Rebisar was in the side room running off the birth certificate.
Okay, so again, it's all about choice, and you had created the idea, so it's not right or wrong, but
Yeah.
just like my former girlfriend, she was with the boys a lot of years. That's Blue Sky Island, and she's made the choice to follow her family into future lifetimes. I've seen her on the real side. So he goes into the next room, which would be like another lifetime, and he's cranking out of the big machine, okay, some kind of machine on the earth, just as a demonstration, so you see it, and all of a sudden, he's showing you that, okay, if that's what you want, then he's just demonstrating the possibility, but you always have the choice to choose differently. And it's not about the laws or what's going on here, it's about your choice. So he's giving you a demonstration that, okay, he's almost saying that, okay, I'll prepare for this for you.
Yeah, well, at the time, I guess it doesn't seem so bad, but now that I have been studying and
Enlightened.
enlightened a little bit here, a lot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that becomes the difference. So here's the idea. See, this is where, I've created groups and whatever, and do we want to keep agreeing to restrictions? You don't have to. See, now you become completely aware. And just like fog in the sun, the lower bodies eventually disappear. And you are all awareness. You don't need to go through the process anymore. So again, see, this is what I've said many times. You don't need free will with your awareness. You just be aware because everything's available. So again, you have to deal with the personal self and everything that's going on here. So it all sounds good and this and that and figuring things out like Sherlock Holmes. But the end result is you just put yourself into more situations that you don't want to be in. So compare that to a complete awareness like the isness, like the sun shining, as to what's going on here. You see?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's your choice. See, they ain't going to choose for you. So this is where, when you have these demonstrations from the boys, you have that personal self that comes in. I see my personal self comes in too, etc. And learning to recognize that, and this is where the comparisons. Okay, so you can create any sound good scenarios you want here. Oh, it can all sound good. Oh, we can have new inventions and we can have better cell phones and all that. Oh, it all sounds really good, doesn't it? How about not needing any of it? and just living awesome, all aware with the all natural environment life is. How about that?
Sounds good to me.
Well, I have a follow-up. Is there a point where an agreement becomes binding and you're stuck with it? So let's say that Sandy had died before she became aware that that was a stupid decision. Would she be bound to that new life that Rebisar popped out for her? Or
Are you referring to marriage?
no, I'm referring to Sandy's agreement to be born again as in a new life as a musician.
It sounds like she's going to be a Christian, but I was just joking about the marriage thing. Did you get it?
Yeah, he didn't.
Oh,
So the witness is still confused no matter how much we explain.
yeah, that's part of my problem. I'm easily confused.
I think he's talking about me.
I mean the defendant, sorry. You're the witness, yes.
Yeah.
So and now it's at the point where the witness is probably thinking, oh, gee, I got to keep listening to this? Okay, so, well, you're the witness. Yes, you do. You've agreed. You guys have agreed.
Oh, boy.
So is there a point where an agreement becomes binding, where you're stuck with it? Or do you always have the opportunity to get out of an agreement?
I'm assuming you have a right and left arm and hand?
Yeah.
He had to think about it.
Okay, all right. So now just either one, left or right hand, move it up to the top of your head and feel around. Feel around the top of your head, kind of like where the crown chakra is.
You mean where my hair used to be?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yes, greener pastures. Yes.
That's right. Yeah.
Green living is the place for me. Green acres. I like
Place
that
for me
song.
farm living.
Give me Fifth Avenue. Okay, so is it smooth up there or do you feel a point? Which is it?
Smooth.
It's smooth, so there's no point. There's no point to any of this, is there? And then there was silence. You guys are practicing the law of silence. You're good at it. You're good at it.
I'm practicing the law of silence. Every time I open my mouth, I get ridiculed for it.
All right.
Yeah, so that's the witness. It's like, okay, I'm going to practice the law of silence, Bob. Okay, with what you said. Again, you talked about a point, Bob, and I'm just wondering where the point is myself. So I was assuming maybe it's on the top of your head, but it's not there, is it?
So I'm getting from your answer that agreements.
Here we go.
You're looking for the point. Hey, well, I'm trying to help you find it. You said the point to all this. Well, again. Point to something. Okay, take your left or right hand and point to something. All right.
Point at Sandy.
Yes, blame it on the witness.
That's
Okay,
right.
see, there you go. See? So this is when you're out to dinner with your neighbors and whatever, and they say, well, your dog did his thing on the lawn. You tell them that it wasn't me, it was my wife. She was walking the dog. You see, you always have someone to blame. You see, that's what marriage is about. It's not about love. It's about, hey, I've got a witness, or I've got someone to blame.
He knows that well.
I've got her now.
I didn't
It
do
wasn't
that.
me.
You did it.
It was her. That's what marriage is really about, because most marriages go to the courtroom and they got lawyers and it wasn't me, it was him.
Yeah.
I wasn't there at the scene of the crime, it was him. He did it. Okay, see,
I
it's
never did that.
always so, it's just, that's what marriage is about, you see? So you guys are here. You are. Okay. Now you're at that point of confessing everything, and now we're into your agreements and all these agreements that you've made, and now you want to get out of them, but you feel a little guilty, so you're asking the question. See, when you ask the question, that means it's like, oh my gosh, if I don't agree to my agreements, am I in trouble? You see, you're asking the question. So again, it's the personal self. We're funny here, aren't we? And this is how comedy shows start. This is how Saturday Night Live started.
Looked like you were going to say something, Bob.
Well, I was just thinking.
Or are you afraid?
All right, so if somebody in the corporation winds up on the causal plane and all of a sudden they're there and they said, man, what am I doing?
That would be a miracle, wouldn't it, if they ended up on the causal plane?
Well, okay.
It would.
They could get past the lower astral.
Okay, we'll say that. Yeah.
I would say hallelujah.
But there is no such thing as a miracle, right?
Go ahead.
Well, so let's say they make it to the lower astral and they get to the lower astral and they're right there and they're thinking, you know, what happened? Why am I here instead of up there with Harold on the higher planes or something? At that point in time, can they say, well, I don't really need to be here. I would rather be somewhere else, and I don't want to go through the reincarnation process? Can they get out of the reincarnation process at that point in time?
And
if they can't, that's my question about it's binding. Their agreement to be there became binding, which means they're stuck in creation.
Well, let's simplify this. In other words, look at where you live, and etc., and what you've agreed to. Are you ready to get up and move?
Yeah,
No.
I'm always ready to get up.
No, but will you do it? See, the thing is, what's keeping you there?
What's keeping me here? I can't afford to move.
So you've agreed that you can't afford to move. See? Okay,
Correct.
see?
Yes, I have.
You decided that. Nobody else did. I didn't hear anybody else. I don't agree to that. But you can do whatever you want. But you decided you can't afford to move. You see, there's your agreement. And,
I could move all right, but Sandy'd be out there sleeping in my car somewhere. You know.
Well, when you say first, you said, see, you go to the original agreement. The original agreement is, you say, the original agreement is that is, I can't afford to move. Now you're bringing in theory, which is, oh, well, we could move, and I'd like to move, but you see, that's all theory, because the original agreement, that's the real agreement. But actually, you can move if you decide to.
Yes, yes.
I left my places at the best of times, not the worst of times. But that was a decision I made, and I could have decided anyway, but I went through the steps. I knew I had to go through steps, and it was kind of always walking into the unknown. I didn't know what the next one was till I got here, but I knew I had to leave, and it was at the best of times, not the worst. Yes, you always have the right to decide, but again, there's your basis right there. See, you're going to use that, and that's going to be your excuse. And you're going to tell your neighbors, well, it's my wife told me this, that I can't move because we can't afford it. So I'm stuck here with her and her dog. Okay, whatever, and her parrot. Yes.
Yeah, but when you're ready to go off planet, I'll be ready.
Oh, Lord.
I'll leave the house just the way it is, and anybody can have it.
Oh. Yeah, your brother will grab it. But anyway. Well, this was fun.
Well, since I think we've got the ball down on 3 legs with that one. By the way, is Raymond, has he got any new shows on, or are you talking about past shows?
The Blacklist.
What do you mean, the Blacklist?
Yeah, they got new shows out this fall?
I don't know. I'm on episode 284. I don't know. I'm amazed they just keep going. I went through House of Cards, the new ones too, and they only had like 8 or 10 episodes, and so she's finally killed Doug, and so but she'll turn that around to where he committed Harry Carey and he tried to get her. So again, she's clever too. So and these show I love. I really get involved with these, very intense. I watch my personal self sit and watch these things, and I love the intensity of them. And they're really good at just bringing it about. And it's so cool because, again, it just gives me all these hardcore viewpoints to deal with. And so, but I really like Raymond Reddington because it reminds me of me, but Paul also, because, again, I look for every opportunity, and so does Raymond. And everybody else is square. You see, they're just running around. He got the FBI to work for him. And now it's at a point, I was looking at it last night, it's such a crack up. I mean, here are the so-called good guys, and they're all agreeably corrupt, but they're really not corrupt. All of a sudden, they've decided to be creative too, and they're just so agreeing to it. And it's a great show. It's a crack up, really. So, and it's how you view it. So it's not about right or wrong. When you let all that stuff go, and you just watch the experience, because I'm in creation here, we're dealing with it. We got the fires. All of California's on fire. It's totally evil what's going on here. I mean, it's even worse than that. And we're breathing this air. It's all chemical crap because they're destroying people's homes, etc. So seeing it from all sides and facing it and dealing with it while I'm here to, rescue a few people that'll listen. But most people don't care, and they're going to run in panic more. So just, I guess there's like 75,000 people displaced here, and that's huge. Even if it's 1,000 or 100, those people, they're in total panic, just like Fukushima, and they don't know what to do, and they're not going to listen. So, being here and presenting this reality and seeing the few that show up sincerely, it's huge, and there's a lot to learn here. There is a lot to see and get through your personal self. I never take it for granted one instant, not at all, and I just continually observe. So when I like to watch these shows because they give me objective views. They're really just documentaries. But again, most people take things for granted. They're little know-it-alls running around, and they will be the effect of everything. We have to deal with creation, the cause and effect of it. There's nothing right or wrong about anything here. It's about your choice. You decide. And so again, there's creation. There's the real universes. Learn to recognize that. Learn to compare, and that helps your recognition. So all these experiences we go through. And yeah, I like to have fun with it too. And Raymond, that character, he's a cool character. That was the same fellow that played in Stargate. He was a lot younger then. And he was the little know-it-all then with Kurt Russell, who was the military guy. And I didn't recognize him at first, but then all of a sudden I did. But plays the part excellent and has humor and little stories that most people don't want to hear. But those little stories add up to something simply because there's more than just black or white. There's a whole lot to it, and this is what the boys are constantly trying to show people. But again, they're not going to interfere with your decisions. So just like yours, Sandy, that's very good. So you make a statement, and Rebisar was demonstrating that, okay, you stick to that, here's the end result. You're going to be in the next room, and your little feet are going to be on that piece of paper again. Is that what you want? Are you sure? So you can see it any way you want. Yes, but you know what? Yes, I'll take awareness over everything. Being completely aware of everything. And you know what? Just because you can decide that and then go for it, you got to figure it out too. It ain't going to be given to you. Life cannot give itself to you. You have to decide to recognize what life is. That's real. It ain't going to just give it to you. There ain't no law, no idea, enactment, or whatever. You have rights or whatever. Stuff's all nonsense. Okay, you want to play with it? Have fun. If it's workable in some situation, but for the most part, again, it becomes agreements to what? That you know something? life itself is awesome. And you can decide to stand real with it and view and see and be supported by it totally and completely. But you really have to decide, and you got to figure it out. And so this is what I've decided is the real universal position here. But you got to see it. Yeah. So anyhow, go ahead, kids. You're wonderful. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. And I like Raymond's the fact that he thinks outside the box. You know, I just love that character. And if you remember, he did that law series with Kirk. You know, he was a fabulous trial lawyer, and that if you ever watch those are fun to watch too.
What's that one called?
I don't remember.
I don't remember the name of it.
Is that on Netflix too? Is that Netflix too?
Well, we don't have Netflix, but
yeah, we don't do Netflix. But this came out, I don't know, maybe it probably ended a couple years before Blacklist started.
They probably have it then. Yeah, well, it's these are series on Netflix, so yeah.
Yeah, he was a trial lawyer with William Shatner, and they had these cases that they would argue, and the way they presented their cases was just fabulous. So I'm sure you would enjoy that.
Was it better than Iron Ass?
Ironsides, you mean? Iron Mask?
Well, I just call the guy, what's his name, Iron Ass, because he's always sitting in that wheelchair, and you got to have an iron ass to sit in a wheelchair. I don't know if his sides were iron, but I'm sure his ass was.
Yeah, that was an entertaining show, but no, this other one with William Shatner and Raymond, it's much better, much more state of the art, and the cases were more involved in real life, but their arguments were just fabulous. So, yeah, very entertaining.
And even better than Andy Griffith, huh? He was in what was his show? Remember? He was a lawyer too.
You mean?
Yeah, we just watched one.
Yeah, we just did. What? Oh boy.
With his daughter.
Yeah.
Perry Mason was the original. Yeah. And then what's his name became Iron Ass later on. Yeah. So yeah.
Perry Mason.
Yeah, Perry Mason, and that was William Burr or something like that. What was his name?
Burr.
Yeah.
Raymond Burr.
And that's what happens to lawyers. They eventually, their ass gets so heavy they got to sit in a chair all the time. Yeah, yeah. And see, that's they don't have a brain. They just got an iron ass, and that's what happens. Yeah. So again, they're always in the courtroom. Looks fun, doesn't it? Just being in the courtroom all the time.
Not quite.
Exactly.
Actually, I was supposed to. I got called for jury duty the last week of November, and my boss said, "Well, we're going to be shorthanded 2 people if I had to go do that." So they wrote out a paper and sent it to the lady at the circuit court lady, and she said, "Nope, you don't have to go." So I missed my chance to be a witness for the prosecution. Well, anyway, thank you, Duane.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah,
for all the info. It's great.
It's great.
The system that was created by certain groups in this country was intended to do one thing: to give people the freedom to uncover and decide their self-responsibility. That's really the key in all of this. You can be responsible for yourself and everything about you. And that's kind of tough in most circumstances because people always want to point the finger everywhere else. So, but that's the underlying intent for our system, and it does reflect that in the things that people agree to or not. Because it's the agreement that keeps everybody in chains.
Well, I think Daniel Boone had the right idea. As soon as the politicians moved in the state, he moved out and didn't have enough elbow room I'm going to go where there's no politicians and no government and just, live off the land. He has the
Well,
right idea.
That's the imaginative part of this whole thing, and I kind of saw this many years ago about a system where everybody was free and had no chains, and everybody was living in harmony with each other, with the environment, with the animals, everything. So that's a pretty neat scenario, which is available. It's going to happen again for a lot of people.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Mike.
That was fun, kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And Duane.